Bien, bienvenue. Merci à toutes et à tous de nous rejoindre aujourd'hui en salle de presse pour le compte-rendu du collège. Nous avons aujourd'hui le plaisir d'avoir avec nous le haut représentant et vice-président Monsieur BORRELL et la vice-présidente Madame JOUROVÁ. Monsieur le vice-président, je vous passe la parole.
Thank you, Eric. First of all, my secret services told me that today is your birthday.
Oh, yes.
So, I am very much aware of what's happening. No? So, congratulations for that. You have been surviving this difficult job you have. Thank you very much for it. Well, today the college meeting started with an oral update from Michel Barnier, the chief negotiator from the Commission side, for the future relationship with the United Kingdom and on the state of play of these negotiations. The College took note of the forthcoming second meeting, will take place this Friday on the Joint Committee on the implementation of the withdrawal agreement and of the high-level meeting between the European Union and the United Kingdom that will take place still this month. The College has also been discussing the measures taken by member states at internal borders in the context of the coronavirus crisis and the temporary restriction of non-essential travel to the EU area. As far as the internal borders are concerned, the College took note of the fact that several member states are in the process of lifting internal borders controls and considered that this process should be finalized in the course of this month of June. The lifting of temporary travel restrictions at external borders will come at the second stage. And in this respect, later this week, the College will adopt its assessment of travel restrictions and will put forward an approach for the gradual and partial lifting of these restrictions as of the 1st of July, with certain third countries taking into account a number of principles and criteria and based on a common coordinated approach by member states supported by the Commission. But after dealing with these two issues, the main discussion was focused on the joint communication on tackling COVID-19 disinformation.
Please.
I go to that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, it's clear that the coronavirus has had a massive and devastating impact on people around the world. It's not still over, and by the time being, it has taken over 400,000 lives globally. But this is not the only virus that is causing problems. The coronavirus pandemic has been accompanied by a massive infodemic. We have witnessed a wave of false and misleading information, hoaxes and conspiracy theories, as well as targeted influence operations by foreign actors. Some of this is aimed at harming the European Union and its member states, trying to undermine our democracies, the credibility of the European Union and of national authorities. What is more, disinformation in times of the coronavirus can kill. Misleading health information, consumer fraud, cybercrime or targeted disinformation campaigns by foreign actors pose several potential risks to our citizens, their health, to their trust in public institutions. We have, for example, seen disinformation saying that drinking bleach can cure coronavirus, or that washing hands does not help. It can also have a very direct material impact. Take the vandalism against 5G infrastructures in some member states. In front of all this, we need to take decisive actions and have a duty to our citizens to make them aware of false information, to expose the actors responsible for spreading it, and to step up our existing work to deal with this challenge. In today's technology-driven and competing world, the warriors wield keyboards rather than swords. Targeted influence operations and disinformation campaigns are a recognized weapon of a state and non-state actors. And that's why we have been working together from the External Action Service and with the Commission services led by my colleague and friend Vêra. I'm sorry, I've always made the same mistake. Thank you, Vêra. And we have been working together in this joint communication. We look at the lessons learned and key activities undertaken in response to the infodemic. We also outline concrete steps to be taken immediately to increase our capacity to deal with this information. We did, and the communication explains what we did and what we plan to do on the external front, the external front. We have been working to counter misleading narrative with the strategic communications and public diplomacy in our neighborhood, the Western Balkans and around the world, in Africa especially. This also involves coordination with the World Health Organization, an important cooperation, which will continue to expand. We supported regional governments in tackling the crisis, and we are taking actions to debunk disinformation that can further fuel tension in conflict areas, Sahel, Great Lakes, the Horn of Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America. The External Action Service has also stepped up efforts to address foreign influence operations, publishing regular reports analyzing the trends in disinformation and sharing findings with member states and with Commission members, with international partners, civil society, media and expert communities. We have a EU rapid alert system that has proved to be a valuable tool to share information and analysis with the member states. Looking ahead, we will further enhance our action by stepping up concrete cooperation on strategic communication and public diplomacy. Public diplomacy is very important on that, with member states and international partners such as G7 and NATO, but also United Nations, OSCE, Council of Europe and African Union. And we will empower our European Union delegations all over the world in this regard. We will intensify the exchange of information with relevant partners, and the European team, or Team Europe, a brand that we are using more and more, Team Europe, we foresee support for partners in tackling the impact of the pandemics, promoting the access to reliable information. Last but certainly not least, we will also enhance our work in monitoring the violations of press freedom and supporting advocacy for a safer media environment. Democracy is a system that is being fueled by information. Information is the raw material of democracy. If people don't have the right information, it's going to be difficult for them to make the right choices. Their choices have to be based on information of quality, fairness, and the trust about facts and figures. One thing is the facts, another thing is the opinions. Opinions are free, but facts are the facts. And we have to fight for the facts being the right ones, the true ones, in order to fuel a fair democratic system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borrell. Mrs. JOUROVÁ.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Josep. I think it's good to say that we had a very good cooperation on this, also with other colleagues, and wherever the disinformation is born, whether outside Europe or inside, the harm goes to the Europeans. That's why I think it's a very, very important common piece of work. And it's the communication has a title, Get the Facts Right. And this is what Josep mentioned at the end, that we are looking at the facts while leaving opinions fully free, and the freedom of speech is the priority principle for us. The pandemic showed that disinformation does not only harm the health of our citizens, but also the health of democracies, also negatively impact the economy and undermine the response of the public authorities, and therefore also weakens the health measures. And I'm afraid the disinformation flow will continue. Vaccination seems to be the next battleground. For instance, one study showed that the willingness in Germany to take up vaccination decreased by almost 20 percentage points in less than 2 months. We decided to do this communication for 2 reasons. First, we wanted to have a comprehensive overview of all the measures taken and identify potential gaps. And second, it is a to-do list for all involved, especially the platforms, to step up their work. So what we have done so far? For example, we quickly agreed with the online platforms that they would promote links to WHO and health authorities and remove ads that offer fake medicine or inflate prices for normal products. For example, Google has blocked or removed over 80 million coronavirus-related ads, and this is a global picture. On the authority side, we have seen that the health sector has really strengthened their ability to provide factual information on time. These actions brought results, and I choose to believe that we helped to make the information environment, especially online, better. But we still have many things to do, and this communication outlines the European approach to disinformation. It is comprehensive and balanced, addressing mainly 3 things: the sources of information, the channels, and the targets. Josep talked about the foreign sources of disinformation. I am glad about this because I strongly believe that a geopolitical EU can only materialize if we are assertive and name the issues we face. But we also have to put our own house in order. We need to beef up our own strategic communication. We want to get our story about Europe and EU support out during the coronavirus crisis. It's high time we step up on this and do not allow others to occupy the space. Now to the second point, the channels of the communication, namely the platforms. I welcome strong measures taken by platforms to fight harmful content in this crisis. I support the approach that preserves the freedom of information and expression while ensuring our citizens are not put in danger. I believe that the fact that we worked with the platforms and we designed with them the code of practice on disinformation helped to roll out new policies quicker. We didn't start from the scratch. But again, platforms need to do more, and our code was just the first step, and there is a room for improvement. For instance, we know only as much as platforms tell us. This is not good enough. They have to open up and offer more evidence that the measures they have taken are working well. They also have to enable the public to identify new threats independently. We invite them now to provide monthly reports with more granular information than ever before. It is also crucial to remove the financial incentives for those who want to benefit from disinformation. Therefore, we are taking action to gain better understanding of the flow of advertising revenues linked to disinformation. We need to ensure transparency and accountability. Citizens need to know how information is reaching them and where it comes from. I am also pleased to announce that TikTok confirmed to me they are joining the EU Code on Disinformation and will very soon conclude the formalities. We are also now negotiating with WhatsApp. Finally, the targets. So us, it is about citizens. Lying is not anything new, and nor something which should scare us so much. But what scares me is that we believe in those lies so easily. This is why we need to become more resilient and critical as a society. We need to support free and independent media, the fact-checkers and researchers. And I really want to insist on this because I believe this is a distinctive part of our policies. I don't want to create the Ministry of Truth. I used to live in a system before 1989 with one only official truth, no pluralism of media, opinion or even thought. This is why we will support the fact-checking and research activities through the recently established European Digital Media Observatory. In this context, later this month, we will launch a call for €9 million for the research hubs in different member states. I think our approach is essential in democracies because it helps to provide a competition of free speech. I believe that, like in the traditional competition policy, the consumers benefit from fair competition and level playing field. The citizens benefit from the fair competition of free speech. This is why I support the Twitter reaction to tweets of President Trump. They did not delete it. We all can see it. They provided fact-checked information and promoted facts. When it comes to the media, we are calling on member states to ensure that journalists can work in the right conditions and to make the most of our recovery package to support the media. To conclude, this communication is the first building block of this new Commission in the response to disinformation. We want to create a more resilient and democratic information space based on fundamental rights and respect for freedom of expression, but also with clear expectations from the digital players. I strongly believe that this will ultimately show that democracy is a superior system to address such a crisis with benefits for its citizens. Truth matters. This communication will inform and help us to prepare better the flagship initiatives that will address online accountability and responsibility, such as the Digital Services Act or resilience of democracies against disinformation, such as the European Democracy Action Plan. We are already now working intensively on both. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Vice President. Before we move to your questions, let me just remind you that we have interpretation available today in German, English, French, Spanish, Italian and Czech. Now let's move to the first question from David Carretta.
Yes, thank you. David Carretta, Radio Radicale, and happy birthday or bon anniversaire en français, Eric. Two questions, if I may. The first one, could you name and shame the state actors that are behind disinformation campaign and influence operation in the EU? And the second question is about the Information Analysis Division and the EIS task forces that are working on that. According to the information I received from your service, IREP, actually just 8-10 people are working on disinformation, with a budget which is of €6 million for all the task forces that are also responsible for communication, not just disinformation. Do you think that this effort is adequate to the challenge of disinformation posed by other actors that are investing much more in terms of people and money on that issue. Thank you.
Mrs. Jourova, perhaps on the states that I mentioned and on Chatcom.
Well, as for the actors and the foreign actors and foreign forces, we are clearly mentioning Russia and China, and we have sufficient evidence to do such a declaration. It's very well evidence-based. As for the capacities, it is a public information how many people work in the services and how much money we invest in it. But I have to stress one thing. You only cannot count the people and the money. The system which we are presenting today is invaluable because it invites a big amount of different players. The system works on the basis of the honest cooperation between the Commission, the Member States, so you have also to count the capacities on the Member States level. The platforms are investing a lot in creating the task forces or their special units to fulfill the commitments they have in what we expect from them to do also in this communication. We are engaging civil society and fact-checkers. We are engaging the research sector. So you have to speak about much wider field and many other capacities which we are deploying to do that. And one more thing, this communication describes how we fight against disinformation in COVID context. And here comes the health sector. I have always said that to fight against disinformation is not about censorship. It's not about removing the false claims and removing disinformation and misinformation. That those who are responsible for the subject has to proactively defend their facts, have to proactively bring trustworthy information. And you see it on this exercise we have now, if I can call this exercise. The health sector was proactively informing. They used the possibility we created for them to occupy the space, especially in online systems, so that the people see first their authorized and their reliable and trustworthy information. It was not easy for the sector of health because COVID was a new phenomenon and they had to update the information according to the latest findings to be lege artis in informing the public. And I think this is a good example for the future because, as I said, vaccination will be attacked again and newly now. So again, this is the call for the sector. We will have to promote the Green Deal and everything we do for better environment and climate change. It's something which is constantly attacked by disinformation and denying the climate change. So again, the sector itself will have to deploy capacities. So we are creating the system. Indeed, we have some experts, some people in the services. We are investing money in it, but it is not possible just to limit our thinking about what capacities are deployed on these figures.
Mr. Borrell.
Well, I can say more or less the same thing that my colleague from the Commission. First, we are very much transparent. Data are public. Like it or not, we are transparent. You have the data about our resources because you knew the budget. And there are the number of people limited, for sure. I received letters from several member states asking for a great engagement and to increase the resources in order to fight against disinformation. And I think they're right. On the External Action Service, let me remember that the whole story started in 2015, 5 years ago, when at that time it was a big concern about disinformation attack coming from Russia sources, and the Balkan countries were very much worried about it. And then the Council, the European Council, asked the External Action Service to create a strategic communication unit related to the Russia activities on disinformation. That was the first step on the EAS. And we created the East Stratcom. Then the challenge changes geographically, and we created Balkans strategic communications related with this information in Balkans. And after we created another one related to the south of Europe. And we have then a rapid alert system and a lot of tools that puts us in permanent contact with the member state, for sure with the Commission, all European institutions, but also other institutions like NATO and G7, and that's what we have. We have been developing on the last 5 years. Maybe we need more resources. I would be very happy, as Vêra also, I suppose, to have more resources. When the member state said, you have to do more and to have more resources, I said, that's okay, give me that resources. And this is what is going to be decided on the next financial perspective. But with the resources we have, I think we do a lot of work.
Thank you. We now move to Andrés Gil.
Hello, Andrés Gil from eldiario.es, Spain. I would like to ask you, because Vice President Jourová mentioned the relationship between Twitter and President Trump, and High Representative spoke about not drinking bleach. And I would like to ask them if in this disinformation study includes speeches like President Trump talking about drinking disinfectant, or some speeches by Bolsonaro in Brazil, the orange vests in Italy, and media outlet related to Vox far-right in Spain, and so on. Thank you.
I don't know who wants to answer first, Mrs. Jourová.
Yes, just the Twitter case is a very good example of what we support. Twitter did not remove any declaration of Mr. President Trump. They just added the facts. And this is what I call plurality and possibility of the competition of free speech, because we should not rely on just one authoritative declaration when it's possible to add some facts which might look at it from a different angle. So this is the competition of speeches. We never wanted the platforms to remove the content unless, and here comes the COVID-related situation, unless it is manifestly and clearly harmful to the health of the people, which is the case of many strange advices and dangerous advices which were published through the social media.
Christian, on va passer à, unless you want to add something.
No, just to say that much before President Trump talked about drinking a beverage, I don't know which kind of beverage was it, much before many other people talk about drinking bleach. So don't believe that I was making a specific reference to President Trump on that. Many people said that before. But yes, we also have a look at what a relevant personality says. And fact-checking is a way of looking at what people say on the public debate, for example, and what the facts are. No? Because many times people receive an information which is not accurate, for example, about the role of the European institutions. No? What the European institutions can do, who does what in Europe. This kind of things has to be corrected if the information was wrong. Because I insist, maybe they don't want to do that on purpose, but people have to have accurate information about how things happens and who is doing what and which are the capacities of the institutions. No?
Thank you. Nous passons à Christian Spielmann. Christian.
Oui, bonjour, j'ai deux questions. La première pour M. Borrell, Christian Spielmann de l'AFP. Le rapport identifie la Chine et la Russie comme les deux grands pays d'origine des campagnes de désinformation. Monsieur Borrell, ma question est toute simple. Quels sont les leviers politiques que l'Union européenne a pour faire cesser ces campagnes? Je veux dire, ça fait des années que l'on connaît les usines à trolls qui sont à Saint-Pétersbourg. On sait qu'elles sont financées par un oligarque qui est proche de Vladimir Poutine. Est-ce que l'Union européenne envisage à un moment donné des sanctions pour faire cesser les comportements que la diplomatie classiquement n'arrive pas à faire cesser? Et pour vous, Madame Jourová, ma question elle est sur le blocage. Je veux dire, vous parlez du cas de Twitter et de Donald Trump. Donald Trump a fait des tweets. Lui dit qu'il est en parfaite bonne foi. Il énonce des choses qu'il estime être véridiques. Il ne veut pas porter de masque parce qu'il considère que c'est inutile. Il considère que la distanciation, c'est grotesque. Il l'écrit, il le publie. Qu'est-ce que vous allez faire? Vous dites, on les corrige. Très bien. Donald Trump se fâche et menace de fermer Twitter. Quelle est la juste limite de l'action que vous pouvez entreprendre pour éviter que effectivement Twitter, qui a engagé le bras de fer avec Donald Trump, soit imité par les autres, comme Facebook, qui eux ont très très peur justement de la réaction d'un chef d'État comme Donald Trump, mais tout à l'heure mon confrère Andrés Gil a parlé de Bolsonaro, qui est dans la même veine, et on en a plein partout, y compris en Union européenne. Merci beaucoup.
Comme je disais avant, je pense que c'est quelque chose qu'il faut insister. La démocratie, c'est un système qui fonctionne sur la base de la connaissance que les citoyens ont de la réalité pour pouvoir juger la qualité du gouvernement et pour pouvoir choisir parmi les alternatives qu'on leur offre. Si cette information-là est faussée, ces choix aussi sont faussés. C'est pour ça que j'insiste, et dans la commission on insiste. Il faut défendre la démocratie et pour ceci, il faut essayer d'éviter que les citoyens reçoivent information qui ne répond pas à la vérité, aux faits. Les opinions sont les opinions, chacun a les siennes. Mais vous savez, si j'ai dit de bonne foi que 2 et 2, ça ne fait pas 4, mais 25, ma bonne foi, ce n'est pas une excuse. Je donne une fausse information aux gens. Ah, je l'ai fait de bonne foi. Bon, ben, écoutez, allez apprendre un peu d'arithmétique. La bonne foi n'est pas une excuse pour fournir des informations qui sont fausses. Même si vous les croyez, c'est pas vrai. Et si c'est pas vrai, c'est pas vrai. Alors, moi, je peux opiner que la loi de la gravité n'existe pas. Je dis de bonne foi que la loi de la gravité n'existe pas. Et si quelqu'un me croit se jette par la fenêtre, il va se tuer. Alors, excusez-moi, mais la bonne foi peut tuer. C'est pas une excuse de dire que je dis les choses de bonne foi. Il y a des faits qui sont constatables. Et c'est sur ça qu'on travaille. Les opinions, on les respecte beaucoup, même si certaines opinions, le respect qu'elles méritent, c'est discutable. Mais on respecte les opinions, au moins on les accepte. Mais nous, on doit lutter contre les informations fausses, même si ceux qui les donnent le font entre guillemets, de bonne foi. Vous dites qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire. Vous savez, les autorités russes et chinoises, mais en particulier les Russes, elles ont toujours nié que les centres de désinformation aient rien à voir avec le pouvoir politique russe. Que les centres qu'on connaît bien, comme Russia Today ou Sputnik, n'ont rien à voir avec le gouvernement russe, que c'est des entreprises, disons, privées, et qu'ils ne sont pas responsables de ce qu'ils disent. On m'a dit ça dans mes actuelles responsabilités, et on m'avait dit ça aussi quand j'étais ministre des Affaires étrangères en Espagne. Ils dénient complètement qu'eux, en tant que gouvernement, en tant que pays, en tant qu'autorité publique, interviennent dans cette sorte d'activité. Et évidemment, c'est difficile de contrôler ce que ces centres font. Difficile d'imaginer qu'on puisse avoir la capacité coercitive pour interdire ce qu'ils font. On ne l'a pas. On peut seulement lutter contre l'information qu'ils disséminent pour offrir aux citoyens une alternative, un check, une façon un contraste entre ce qu'on dit et la réalité. Mais difficilement on peut faire d'autres choses.
Mrs. JOUROVÁ, the second question.
Yes, I don't want to repeat myself on the example with Twitter. We do not want to silence anyone. Yeah, we just want to give a hint to the facts to appear in the digital sphere, so that the people can have it firsthand or somewhere comfortably close to be able to confirm to compare what they read. Everybody who is declaring different things online and using Twitter and Facebook and other tools should count with the possibility that somebody will confront what he or she said with the facts. I think this is very fair. And we politicians especially should count with it and should accept this confrontation, because we live in the times when a politician is lying through the massive digital platform with a massive reach to the citizens. The impact of the declarations is immediate. It is in a book written by Madeleine Albright. She says that now politicians have millions of amplions by using Twitter and these platforms. So it is a big advantage, big privilege, very quick impact on the people. So it's more important than before that there is the possibility to add the facts and to confront the declarations with the facts which are evidence-based. That's why we are wakening up now. Professional journalists, we are wakening up. Researchers, the fact-checkers who have reputation, and who can work with the facts, and I think that this is only a good thing if we somehow promote the fact-checking and delivery of the facts and figures and arguments, so that the people can read them as well.
Thank you. We now move to Thomas Spector.
Yes, can you hear me? I think so.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. When the Code of Practice on Disinformation was launched, so I think about 1.5 years ago, the Commission promised to make a comprehensive assessment on the working of it in early 2020, this year. Can we still expect that assessment? And given that ERGA, the European Regulators Group for Audiovisual Media, is saying that the Code of Practice as it is now doesn't work, do you expect to move from this scheme, this voluntary scheme, to stricter rules for online platforms? And when can we expect to hear more from that?
Yes, indeed, you have a good memory. We still owe you the results of the assessment of the code of practice. We still need some more time because we have several channels we use and several partners we use for the feedback of how the code of practice is functioning. The assessment we will publish soon will feed into our work on Digital Services Act and on the European Democracy Action Plan. For the Digital Services Act, which counts with the legislation which should increase the responsibility of the platforms, is now in the public consultation process. So this is very intensive work ongoing now. And our logic we take and we use in assessing the content online will be either the content is illegal according to the current laws. I speak about criminal laws, I speak about hate speech, I speak about child abuse materials, I speak about terrorism, extremism, or the disinformation part where we see this is just a legal assessment, that it is not illegal, but it can cause significant harm. And the sentence that it's not illegal, it's illegal in some member states because some member states have the provisions in the criminal law. And so I don't want to complicate it now, but our logic will be to look into, as for the disinformation, into how big the potential public harm might be. And I do not foresee now that we will come with hard regulation on that, because it is too sensitive to assess the disinformation and to have some rules. It is playing with the freedom of speech, and I really want to come with a balanced proposal. So in Digital Services Act, you will see the regulatory action very probably against illegal content, because what's illegal offline must be clearly illegal online, and the platforms have to proactively work in this direction. But for disinformation, we will have to consider the efficient way how to decrease the impact, the harmful impact of disinformation. And we will focus on its impact before elections, because we see that disinformation, well-targeted and well-designed disinformation can do harm to the free and fair elections. So these are very serious issues we will have to cover in the European Democracy Action Plan. And the assessment of the Code of Practice will feed into this work.
Thank you. I pass the floor to Tanya. Tanya Mileska.
Hi. Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, but we also hear a lot of background noise.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll try to do something about it. So my question is on the Western Balkans. Just a sec.
Sorry,
is it better
Tanya.
like this?
No, it's not working.
Okay. How about now?
Yes, now it's better.
Okay. So on the Western Balkans, so I just went through the communication quickly, and I see that mainly the EU seems to be concerned about the visibility of European help in the Western Balkans, which is fine. But I would also like to know what else is the EU planning to do in tackling disinformation and fake news in the region, because the journalists in the region are faced with much bigger problems than the visibility of the European help. Fake news are flourishing all over the region. I would also like to know if these actions that you are proposing can also be applied to the countries of the region. Can you be more specific on your help for the region? Thank you.
High Representative.
You cannot be more specific.
Mrs. Jourova, any?
Yes, disinformation can be as dangerous in the same way in the European member states as well as in the Western Balkan countries. So we are proposing to focus on it also in the Western Balkan countries, and our colleagues who deal with the neighborhood policy are fully involved and were fully involved in this communication, and we believe that Western Balkans should come along with us for the system of making the digital world especially more trustworthy and less scaring and misleading the people.
Merci. Je passe maintenant la parole à Patrizia Antonini. Patrizia.
Yes, hi, Patrizia Antonini with Answer Press Agency. I have a question for Vice President Jourova. I would like to know what are the European countries which have been most hit by this infodemia, and if Italy is among them. Thank you.
Yes, Italy is among them. In principle, and this will be very big simplification, and I don't have hard data for that. But considering the known fact that the disinformation harvests the fear and anxiety of people, logically the societies which were hit very much by COVID are more, let's say, vulnerable and easier targets for the disinformation. But I don't want to say that the Italians who had to fight so bravely against Corona are easy targets. I just want to say that the disinformation and the targeting disinformation plays with these factors, which is the most hit and most vulnerable society.
Thank you. I pass the floor to Sandor Shiros, Euronews.
Hello, thank you very much. I have two questions to Vice President Jourova. The first one is related to the Hungarian government is starting a national poll about the coronavirus response, and in one of the questions they are stating that Brussels, the European Union, is forcing Hungary to change its constitution to accept migrants. Do you think this qualifies as a misinformation or not? And the second question relates to tracing mobile applications. Now that we are in the phase of deconfinement, what is your advice to member states whether to apply or not these kind of devices? Thank you very much.
First of all, on Hungary and Hungarian public consultation, I don't see the text in front of me. But if you say that there is a question whether it is right that, or whether the people agree that Brussels or the European Union is pushing them to change the constitution and accept migrants, so this is fake news. This is not true. The second thing on the tracing apps, well, we wanted the technologies to be used in the fight against COVID and in the fight against coronavirus. So I think that it was a good step forward when we came with the guidelines which set the principles. And tracing, one of the principles for the tracing apps was that it must be voluntary decided by each individual that they want to be in this, and that the storage of data must be only for a very short time, and also the existence of these tracing apps must be also limited only during the time which is necessary to trace the people because of the pandemic. So this is ongoing. Our data protection authorities are on the cases. And they are assessing whether these tracing apps are not breaching the GDPR rules. But it's not the case up to now.
Thank you. I pass the floor to Athanasios.
Thanks very much, Eric. I will insist on the question of my colleague. This is not the only problem with the national consultation in Hungary. Here we have a much more broader, let's say, campaign with fake news inside the national campaign of Hungary. And the question is not whether those are fake news. We know it's fake news. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with this government? And I will give you another example. In the national consultation that's due to be mailed to the Hungarian citizen, the government asked whether people should reject the George Soros' plan, which could in-depth our homeland for an unforeseeable long time. We know it's fake news. We know it's fiction. We know it's harmful. The question is, what are you going to do about it? How can a government claim things like that in a national consultation? It's outrageous. Thanks.
Which plan? I didn't catch it.
Sorry? Yes, this plan.
It's the national consultation in Hungary.
On taking on debt for future generations. Can I intervene very briefly, Vice President, to say one thing? It is clear that national consultations are a prerogative of member states, and therefore we do not contest the fact that the member state can ask its citizens a certain number of questions. But clearly, as far as the European Union is concerned, we are not at all committed, engaged, in any way responsible for any of the statements which might be made in that consultation, which refer to EU policies. They have not been, obviously, consulted with us.
Well, yes, nobody is not here questioning the possibility and the right of the national governments to organize public consultations. On the contrary, we like the public consultations. We want the citizens to have a say. But the question was what the Commission will do about that. We already had such case in the past where there were information, at least if I am polite, misleading information, which were directed to the European Commission, and we did exactly what's in the communication we present today, to get the facts right. So the Commission reacted and delivered to the Hungarian society, Hungarian citizens, the facts and the information so that they can make an informed choice. So maybe we will do the same in this case, but I will leave it for later decision.
Thank you very much. We will take two last questions because time is running. There's a question from Lawrence Norman. Lawrence, you have the floor. Lawrence, do you hear us? Okay, we will move then to a question from VЄra.
Left.
No, she's there. Vєра, go ahead. Press speak. You need to switch on your mic. Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Super. I wanted to ask you about a letter written by Chancellor Merkel and others to the Commission urging a more close cooperation after the pandemic to prevent further pandemics. And I was wondering how you will react to this request. Thank you.
If you agree, I will answer that question. Thank you very much for your question, Vєra. We are obviously aware of this letter which was sent to us, and we welcome it. In fact, we were involved in the preparation of the issues that are raised in this letter, and we obviously share its analysis and its ideas. As a matter of fact, if you look at the content of the letter, you will see that a lot has already been done to address many of the issues which are raised in this letter. In particular, in the context of Next Generation EU, we have made a certain number of proposals. that will contribute to answering some of the points that are raised in the letter. Next week, the Commission will be discussing a vaccine strategy, which will also address some of the points which are raised in the letter. And on many of the issues that are raised, for example, on the issue of sharing of data, we have already taken action. For example, on the 20th of April, we launched a European COVID-19 data platform. We have made proposals in order to facilitate trade in pharmaceutical and health care products. And even in the context of our industrial strategy, we have proposed a series of measures in order to reinforce the resilience of European value chains. So we think that the letter goes in the direction of what the Commission is putting in place and has proposed to Member States to put in place, in particular through Next Generation EU and the next MFF. Now, let me come back to the question from Lawrence, who I believe had a question on China. Lawrence, you have the floor. Wall Street Journal. Lawrence, press speak. You have a problem. I believe your question refers to the comments from the HRVP on China yesterday. Perhaps if you cannot ask your question directly, Mr. Borrell, you want to make a comment on this?
Well, which comments? Because they made a lot of comments.
Okay, Lawrence? Perhaps type your question for us. Whilst you are typing your question, because we cannot hear you, we will take one last question on disinformation, and I pass the floor to Eric Bonse. Eric.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I would like to put my question in German, please. Ich hätte eine Frage an Frau Jourová. Sie haben von der Gefahr gesprochen, dass Desinformation sozusagen die Gesundheit der Demokratie gefährdet. Können Sie Beispiele nennen dafür, dass Desinformation tatsächlich Schaden angerichtet hat in dieser Corona-Krise? Gibt es dafür Zahlen, Beweise, Fakten? Und eine weitere Frage an Herrn Borrell. Ist jetzt wirklich der richtige Moment, in Sachen China eine Infokampagne zu starten? Wir haben ja schon das Blame Game des amerikanischen Präsidenten gegen China in Sachen Covid-19. Wollen Sie da also eine Art außenpolitischen Kalten Krieg gegen China jetzt veranstalten? Schönen Dank.
Yes, I have the examples of the dangerous texts and advices which might have caused harm to the health of people. And if you look at our website, which is a myth-busting website connected with corona crisis, you might see the examples and make your own judgment whether, if the people read these messages and advices in a massive amount, whether it would or would not do harm to the health of people. I believe they would, because there were many advices, not only drinking bleach, but many other, which were not based on the research and on the expert knowledge about the corona crisis, corona itself, and they definitely can do harm to the people. But precisely, I do not have any impact assessment or any study which would quantify the possible number of people who have been somehow protected by our action. It's true.
Thank you. So I understand that the question from...
About the Cold War.
Sorry, go ahead.
I would like to answer first, we are not starting anything against China. We have been already working on disinformation for a long time. As I said, we started 5 years ago. On the recent years, disinformation covered also sources coming from China, but it is not against China. I'm much less the will to embark in any kind of Cold War with China. I put it clearly yesterday in my long conversation with my colleague, the Foreign Affairs Minister. I told him very clearly. I think I used these specific words that we are not going to be in any kind of Cold War against China, because my colleague and friend, the Foreign Affairs Minister, at a certain moment used these words about a Cold War, and I tell him, don't worry, Europe is not going to embark in any kind of Cold War against China.
Thank you very much to both Mrs. Jourova and Mr. Borrell. This brings us to the end of our press conference today. We will be happy to see you.
Thomas hasn't sent the answer to the question?
Well, I think you raised the question from Lawrence referred to China.
I think it was another one. It was
Okay. Then I will read out what I have received from Lawrence. In answer to a question which he raised yesterday, that Lawrence raised, I had understood you as saying that this was what the Chinese would said, not what that you can vouch for. Is this correct? And if so, do you believe these Chinese claims on China and the use of force? This is what I understand from the question.
Well, yes, I seen there is a little bit of noise in the networks about some of the comments I made yesterday, and maybe it is referred to the issue of the military narrative on China, no? So if it is the question, and I suppose it is the question, well, I am happy to have the opportunity of clarifying that in my remarks yesterday, I was referring to China's own statements that made very clearly and repeatedly during our meeting, explaining that China may have a global role, and that's quite understandable that China. No, but the Chinese, not I, the Chinese, during our meeting, they said once and again that they don't have military ambitions. They don't have military ambition. They don't intend to use force or participate in military conflicts. This is the way that China explained their global role. And I am very happy to take note of that. I am very happy to take note of that because in the European Union, we have a strong interest in a peaceful, stable Asian continent. We already have a lot of problems in other places of the world. We are very happy to expect that in Asia there will be a peaceful continent based on adherence to international rules and multilateralism. And we will continue engaging with China in support of this objective. Because, you know, words matters in diplomacy. Diplomacy works with words. But the facts maybe matters more. And in the European Union, we are fully aware that China is increasing their military spending, about some unilateral actions in the South China Sea, and other tensions that appears in Asia. But when we were talking about these tensions and these problems, the China Foreign Minister insisted that they don't have military ambitions, they don't intend to use force or participate in military conflicts. And this is something that they've reported during my comments, no? But one thing, it's the words that the Chinese says, and the other, the awareness that we have about facts, and that's why we were talking about it.
Okay, thank you very much, High Representative. This brings us to the end of this press conference. Thank you very much for your attention. We will be back tomorrow for the normal midday briefing. Thank you.